This is take 4 or 5. At this point, I am so done that I wasn't even going to make this video, but I've already said that I was going to, so I have to. So you're just gonna have to deal with my sass and my just not caring anymore as I discuss how I would have done Season 1 of the Rings of Power. This light that you see on showing my little elbow here is of a WordPad document and a long, lengthy little notes and scribbles that I wrote out about how I would have done the whole season. I spent a good 30 minutes on it, I made some nice, decent-sized chapters, nice, decent-sized stories, and character arcs and things that I would have done. And then I realized that after my second take and all of this stuff, it took a long time to just talk. It took a long time. And I just thought, alright, I want to condense this to 30 minutes. And then I thought, I want to condense this to 20 minutes. And then I was like, I don't want to do this at all anymore, And so guess what? You see this light? Guess what's going to happen right here? We're gonna move our little mouse over here, right? We're going to move it, and then it's gone. So you're going to get this purely from my brain. And that's all you're going to get. You're going to get 10 to 20 minutes of it, and that's it. How I would have done this Season 1 of the Rings of Power is first, let's talk about audience. Who's my audience? I want to make the endgame of TV shows. The Marvel Avengers endgame of TV shows. Endgame was one of the highest grossing films of all time, if not the highest grossing film, although I think Avatar got another rescreening, re-showing, so it might be over Endgame again. I don't know. They're neck and neck, but it is the biggest film of the last decade. It's the biggest one, and there's reasons for that. It's one of the timeless stories. It's going to be one of the films that we talk about for a long time for how that film did, and then we talk about the audiences, like, why did everybody go to see that? Why? Well, because everybody was watching the MCU for the past decade and a half, and they wanted to see how this all would get paid off. And then most of them were done. They didn't come back for Phase 4 because they were starting to get upset with some of the more recent films. But prior to that, up to like the first Avengers, everybody was on board. They were there for it, and they loved it. They started something that was fantastic, and I wanted to bring that in, that widest, most possible audience. A show that was neutral. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean, there's no agendas. There's no agendas for any side of any fence. There's no fence, in fact. There's no modernist allegorical symbolisms for anything that can be taken for modern day, okay? We're not gonna have we're not gonna have that. We're not gonna have any of that crap, okay? We're not gonna have any of this. We're not gonna have any of that. It's gonna be gone. We're just gonna talk about a story that we could tell within 8 episodes. We're going to keep it 8 episodes, maybe 8 episodes. And we're going to basically discuss how Sauron came to Eregion to try to forge rings of power. He sensed the growing of power in Numenor, and he was like, alright, I gotta get these elves under my heel. I gotta start making some stuff, man. I gotta take control of this place so that if Numenor shows up, I get to be able to beat them up, And so he's over here, in Eregion. He goes to Lindon to try to treat with Gil-galad, and with Círdan, and with Galadriel, who is currently staying there, with her husband, Celeborn, who is going to be part of the show, and their daughter, Celebrian, who is also going to be part of their show. In fact, I'm going to have a cute little romance arc, but it's not going to go anywhere. But it's a little cute little boy meets girl story with Elrond and Celebrian. They're going to meet, they're going to befriend each other, and then she's going to leave because a war is about to happen, and that's kind of a big deal. And then Elrond's going to be focused on being a ruler of a political entity for the next couple of centuries, and nothing happens of their friendship until the Third Age when they get married. But I'm going to have a nice cute little story with that for the first season, maybe, because by the end of the season, Galadriel and Celebrian are going to pass through Khazad-dûm into the east to get away from the tinkering understandings of what's going on here, because she senses a shadow has come to Eriador, whom is Sauron in disguise, and is working with Celebrimbor to create rings of power. So that's what's going to happen there, and that's going to happen over the series of 8 episodes. I thought about bringing an extra storyline happening in Mordor, using some of the plot elements from the actual show. I wanted to have some semblance of the show in here, because I was really trying. And I had this really cool story set up, using 2 of the original characters that the show created, Adar and Arondir. I changed the characters a fair bit. Adar was the least unchanged, but Arondir was almost completely remodeled. In fact, I completely remodeled him entirely. He's not a Sylvan elf. He is a green elf. He is one of the elves that lived in Assyrian during the First Age. He is a kinsman of Denethor. Denethor was one of the leaders of the Green Elves who aided Doriath against Morgoth during one of the first battles of Beleriand, before even the Noldor showed up, right? And then Denethor lost his life, but, the Green Elves are hanging out in Assyria, they're doing their thing. And I wanted to say that Arondir was of those people. I would even say that he's one of Denethor's kinsmen. Maybe a cousin, maybe a son, maybe a grandson. But I would make him one of the kinsmen. And I thought that would be nice to do, because Denethor was awesome. He was awesome. He was pretty cool, And I would make him like that too. The show turned him into like the next Legolas. I wouldn't make that big of an allegory to make him be the next Legolas, but I would make him pretty cool of his own right. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have him have a kinship or a friendship of some sort with Thranduil and Orifer of Greenwood the Great. And it would be those guys who send Arondir into Mordor to keep an eye on the place, because, Mordor's kind of neighboring Greenwood the Great. We don't want too much crap going on there, and they're sensing a shadow in the east, and they send Arondir with some scouts, about 20 or 30 elves. And they come to Mordor to keep an eye on the place. And then Adar shows up, and they were going to fight each other. And Arondir was going to be like rallying the tribes of the Haradrim who were cramped around all over Mordor, and he was going to gather them up and unite the Haradrim, and they were going to push Adar out, or into Gorgoroth rather. And then Sauron was going to show up at the end of the season and be like, "You're a failure." He's going to kill Adar, and then he's going to forge his ring of power, and then he's going to destroy everybody in Nirn and bring them all under subjugation and heal and all that stuff. And his orcs were going to come in, and everybody's going to take over and all that. And that's what was going to happen at the end of that season. But I was going to give Arondir one last hurrah. I was going to make him the winner who won a major battle. No Numenorians came to save him. It's just him and the Haradrim who won the day. I was going to do that. Be nice. Because, Denethor of old, Denethor was able to win with just himself and the Doriath Sindar elves. They were the ones who did it without the Noldor. They won that battle without the Noldor, right? And I was going to give him a reflection of that. How each age was like a reflection, just not as bright as the previous. I was going to give them that. I was going to give that to them. And, well, it didn't happen. I scrapped that story. I was like, that was cool, but it could have been better. Every rough draft that you make is terrible. It's terrible. Every rough draft that you make is terrible, and you want to make another draft. 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 And it's like, I didn't want to try that hard for something that I wasn't being, moolad for. So this is all you get. You're going to get just a small little breakdown of what I tried to do. I wanted to make this little outline of 8 episodes that we could have gotten. I was going to scrap the Hardfoots entirely. They're gone. I'm sorry if you like hobbits. If you like them, they're fine. They're great. They're cool. But you don't need them in this story. You don't. They're not important to the Second Age at all. In fact, all they do is distract you from the Second Age. All they do is distract you from the main story, from the canon story that's happening. And I wanted to keep that canon. There's 2 pages that I showed you in a previous video. There's 2 pages in the appendices that have things that have to happen in the way that they happen. That's the canon. We're only allowed to work within the loopholes, within those time plots where nothing has happened. We're allowed to work within those things and try to do things, but we have to make it sound like it's something that could have come from this world, from Tolkien himself. We had to make it sound like that. And we can't just say on marketing, oh, I think we're very Tolkienian, and I think we are, when you're not at all. Like, I would say I want to try. I want to try to be it. I'm probably not going to be even close. That's probably why I scrapped it, But I wanted to try to be kind of like him. But then I realized I probably would have to dedicate a long time, a long, arduous effort to try to make something even remotely close to how he would have done it, One rough draft isn't worth uploading. One rough draft isn't worth showing, It's not that, So what you're gonna get is just a series of ramblings trying to form a cohesive unit. The first season was going to be about Sauron forging the Rings of Power and his bond with Celebrimbor's ambition to try to be the next Fëanor. He wants to turn Eriador into the greatest realm of the elves ever. He wants to be greater than Gil-galad. He wants to take over Gil-galad's position, in fact. He wants to be the greatest and biggest thing ever, But, his main city, he would turn into the next Gondolin. He wanted to be the next Gondolin. Eventually, he realizes his hubris once Sauron leaves and the spell is broken, and he realizes what he's done. He reconciles with Gil-galad, and over the next couple of decades, he forges the 3 elven rings, and he gives 2 to Gil-galad. He gives 1 to Galadriel, and Sauron returns to the east and begins to make ready for battle. That's what I would have done for the first season. There's a lot of stuff he could put in between those episodes. There's a lot of stuff he could put in there. For example, you could have had a plot line with Tar Minister in this the 8th episode, the final episode. Tar Minister could show up. We would make a creative liberty to say that during Tar Minister's youth, he could be a mariner who travels to Lindon, much like Aldarion of old did, and befriended Gil-galad. Tar Minister could befriend Gil-galad, and it could be Tar Minister who tries to convince his aunt to send the army of the Númenóreans to Gil-galad's aid in the 2nd season. We start that up, our little Chekhov's gun, if you will. That would have been how I would have started that and launched the Númenóreans into the story. Tar Minister would have been the first one to show up. And the last 3 seasons I would have made roughly within a 250-year time span. But the first season would have been a 400-year time span within the year 1200 and the year 1600. That's a lot of time. So my main cast were going to be elves, dwarves, and Sauron. Because elves, they don't change, and dwarves were basically about 2 generations. So we would have the first generation, and then their kids at the end, Durin the Third would be the child of the Dwarven King that Celebrimbor meets at the start of the season. Durin the Third is the child who befriends Elrond, whereas Durin the Third's father befriends Celebrimbor. That's how it would have done. That's how I would have done it. I liked the friendship between Durin the Fourth and Elrond, which is why I would make Durin the Third's actor the same one as Durin the Fourth. We would not have 2 Durins alive at the same time. Durin the Third's father would be named something else. As we know, Durin the Second was from the start of the Second Age, and then there's about 1,000 years, a long time in between Durin the Second and Durin the Third. It's not that Durin the Second lived for 1,000 years, no. He had sons, he had a bunch of kids, and throughout the line, the next Durin would be born. Every time it would name Durin when that Durin was the most like him. They would name him Durin for being like Durin. That was their superstition. So I would have 2 generations of friendships. Celebrimbor would befriend the father of Durin the Third, and Durin the Third would befriend Elrond. And Celeborn would have a racism against dwarves. He would be the most staunch racist against dwarves because of what happened to Thingol, because he was Thingol's kinsman. So there would be some sort of tension between the two that this whole season would be working on, because Celebrimbor would need the dwarves' aid with the elven smiths to make Eregion into this golden age that it was, right? So, at the end of the second season, Durin the Third would come in to aid Elrond in his time of need to fulfill a promise, to fulfill the alliance, and he would lose his life for his troubles, right? And Durin the Third would be taken back into Moria, and they would close the doors forever. But Celeborn would be of that number that was saved by the dwarves, and that would help him resolve his personal issues and his racism against the dwarves, and he would be kinder to them in the future. That's a character growth moment. The first two seasons will give him a character growth, and that's important to have, I think. So that's what I would have done. You know, I would have done something kind of like that. If you want a long, lengthier description of all those episodes, maybe leave a comment or something. I saved the document. I just didn't feel like talking about it anymore. I'm tired of it. I didn't want to make anything longer than 20 minutes. We're at 60 minutes now, so that's satisfying to me. It's very satisfying to me to have a 16 to 17 minute episode. That's fine. If you want to know about those episodes, like I said, leave a comment. If you're on where you know you're on, right, whatever, you know, then message me there and be like, hey, dude, I want to know about what you had in mind. I want to know about those episodes. I want to know what you had in mind, and I'll probably paste them, maybe, and paste them in the comment section. I don't care, but I'm not gonna talk about it anymore. I'm not done. I'm not gonna come back to this at all again. I keep saying that, but this time it's for real. We're done. The season's done. I threw out my rough drafty draft of what I would have done for the first season, and that's it. I'm not going to come back for what I would have done for season 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, because they're not out yet, so we don't need to talk about it. So that's it. That's all. Be imaginative.